Today we have the 2020 Nissan Versa, the cheapest Nissan sedan that you can buy. It was redesigned for 2020 and Nissan wanted to reimagine this whole entire segment, and they gave us this car with a lot of different changes, and it's a lot more refined than you might expect and maybe a top option for $20,000 or less. We're gonna do a full review and test drive. Let's get started. On the outside for this 2020 Nissan Versa, it's got a new design that's supposed to line up more with the Maxima and the Altima, and you can definitely see some of those styling cues. They wanted to leave a lasting impression, so they made it lower, longer, and wider. The S model starts at just under 15,000, but this SR model that we have right here is just over 20,000 with some options. So starting out on the front, you still get Nissan's V-Motion grille, as you can see right there, and it is a darker chrome on this SR model. It's a little bit sportier, definitely got a little bit of a body kit type going on at the bottom. Those are halogen fog lights down there, and then we have LED high and low beams on this SR model. The rest of them are going to get halogen bulbs. We've got the boomerang headlights, the signature daytime running light as well, that's LED. It looks really nice at night, and at nighttime these lights actually do a lot better than I expected as well, so I'm really happy with that. They're really impressive for this class of a car. As you come around the side, you definitely start to see how small of a car this actually is, even though it's really not as tiny as you might think, being a subcompact car. This is the gun metallic paint, and it does have a little bit of flake in it. It's nothing too shiny or special, just kind of your regular standard gray, dark gray that you'll see on a lot of different makes and models. On the wheels right here, the S is going to give you 15-inch wheels, the SV 16, but the SR gives us these 17-inch wheels that are 205 50 series tires. And you've got drum brakes in the back. You can see the turn signal on that mirror right there. That's on the SV and the SR trim, which is nice. A little bit of a safety feature. They're also heated on those trims to help in the wintertime, which is always really nice as well. Now, it has an improved rear suspension as well as better structural rigidity, so it should lead to improved ride and dynamics when you come to driving it. We'll talk about that in the test drive in a little bit. And then on the back here, you can see the floating roof with the C-pillar right there, similar to what you see on the Maxima, definitely some of the same design language. And then also as we come around to the back, we've kind of got these boomerang shaped taillights. These are all incandescent bulb, no LED taillights back here, but this SR model gives us this body colored spoiler as well. And then right below that, you've even got a cool little diffuser trim piece down at the bottom, just to kind of top things off for this SR trim. In this subcompact class, you don't really expect much in terms of driver assist features, but Nissan wanted us to know that standard on the S model, you get these next three safety systems: the automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, rear automatic braking, lane departure warning. Those are all standard on the base model and the rest of them, but there's also high beam assist available, blind spot warning with rear cross traffic alert, and then also available on the SR convenience package is the intelligent driver alertness and intelligent cruise control. Now taking a look at the trunk with our smart key here, we've got a little touchpad right up underneath, or you can open it the traditional way with the key fob or inside the vehicle, but we have a wider, more user-friendly opening, and you can see that's a really wide opening, especially for a trunk in this class. And I've got a carry-on suitcase right there, my tripod. You can see just how big these pockets are. Like on that left side, there's really not a whole lot to get in the way in this trunk. It's about 15 cubic feet, which is fantastic for this size. The only thing is there's hinges that are exposed, which could impede on some cargo, so you just got to watch for that. And you've got a 60/40 fold as long as you have the automatic transmission. And to top it off, there is a temporary spare tire underneath of here. Now this is a very familiar key fob with Nissan. It is small and sleek. This model gives us the intelligent key, the smart key. The rest of them will give you the regular key fob. So with our intelligent key, we get the remote start, which is really nice to see on a vehicle of this class and this price. Every model gets push button start though, and you've got this button to lock it or unlock it. There's no sensor behind the handle, but on this trim we've got, as an accessory, glowing sill plates at the bottom, as well as glowing light under the car to light up the whole entire under the car when you approach the vehicle. It's really pretty cool at night, but it is an accessory. So even though this is a subcompact car, it's small, it's low to the ground, it's really not that hard to get in and out of. For a small car like this, it's actually a little bit higher than I expected. So ingress and egress, really not too bad if that's a concern for you. Now, standard on every trim are going to be 6-way manual seats. The good thing about this though is that we have a mechanical option to where we can pump the seat up and down, which is always nice, but there's just no adjustable lumbar support. So if you need that, you'd have to bring a little pillow. All of the seats are cloth, but the SR model that we have right here gets these special sportier fabric with some accents on them, and it's got a little bit of an orangey red color with some contrast stitching as well. So they're kind of some cool little seats, and with the SR convenience package, these seats are also heated. So if you want that, you've got to go for the SR. Now, one thing to note is that there's no armrest on the base model. It's just kind of an open area right here. Otherwise, you'll have a fold down armrest. And then this one right here is actually thanks to an accessory. It's a paid upgrade to have this one with the storage. And this armrest is kind of funky. It's got a cutout so your bottles can fit right here, but it's actually long enough to where you can have your elbow on here and still a hand on the steering wheel. My only complaint though is on my left side, I have to sit far enough back to be comfortable to where my arm is just right up against this middle pillar, so I can't really use this armrest that well. But I'm 5'9", I've got amazing headroom in here. I mean, I'm not tall, so that's never an issue, but you should be able to have some pretty tall and short people in here and be okay. And then we've got a tilt and telescoping option with the steering wheel. Kind of a short range of motion coming out, but it works. Now the interior of this 2020 Versa brings elements from the Maxima and the Altima, and you'll see the gliding wing instrument panel that you'll get on every model, and there's just more open space and a higher quality feel in here. Now as we take a look over at the door here, you've got a hard surface up there, so if you like to rest your arm, and then this isn't necessarily padded, but it's a nice soft material, and you've got that contrast stitching right there. Even a unique design around here. One automatic window on the driver's side, decent door handle, you could maybe even put your phone in there. And my large bottle kind of fits right there, otherwise you've got a decent storage cubby. Now right here on the S model, you're gonna have some different buttons right here for controls, but those are integrated into our display, so we have this little storage bin. And you can even see some of the detail that they have. They still have this soft material with the stitching right here, something that you don't always expect in a car of this price. You've got your hood and your fuel door, and then your trunk button is down there. Now the steering wheel is leather on the SV and the SR trims, and it's got a little bit of bulky grip there. It's even got a flat bottom, which is unique, but the leather on here just does not feel like leather really. It's definitely really cheap. Just a small complaint, but if it's gonna be leather, I'd expect it to be a little bit nicer. And you've got controls on both sides of the steering wheel. You've got your cruise control settings, voice controls over there, as well as your radio controls and information display controls over here. Our push button start on every trim, right down there. And then just right off the bat, this is kind of a standard view right here. Right in the middle, you've got your drive assist display, to where if you turn your blinker on and there's someone in your blind spot, one side will light up or the other, your lanes, and then same with your frontal collision. So that's always going to be there unless you change this left side. And that left side is controlled with the steering wheel, so you can scroll through. That's the first setting, and then you can see your music. You've got a little trip computer right here, and this MPG right there is a little bit lower than what I had been getting. I'd been getting about 35 to 36 with mixed driving, probably a little more highway, so not bad at all, meeting the numbers. And then we can keep scrolling over and you get more information on here. Just scroll through to show you what's on there. You can put your driving age here, but then it just shows your gear over there. I wish you could not have that in the middle sometimes, and maybe just your speed in the middle or something else in the middle, but you're a little bit restricted to that. And then you can change all your settings through here and kind of customize what you see. So it's a pretty nice little system, especially for a vehicle of this class. This 7-inch drive assist display is on the SV and the SR. The S will just give you a small display in the middle. And then as we move across the dash, you'll see the gliding wing instrument panel that Nissan calls it. The 7-inch screen is actually standard on all trims here, and it's a touch screen. And it's really surprising to see this on the S model, but the S model does not give you Apple CarPlay or Android Auto like you see right here. One thing I like about this screen is that we have physical buttons right here, so you can easily control your brightness here. You access your phone, your audio, a main menu, even the backup camera on the right, seeking buttons, volume and tuning knobs. So physical controls are always welcome in my book. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on here. Sirius XM is also not available on the S trim, but it is on these ones. Standard is going to be a 4-speaker system, but you'll get 6 speakers on this SR trim. And it's kind of a cool little display, especially for this, this price of a vehicle. You can go to your settings and customize different things over here. So you can bring up this menu here. You can control your sound, of course, and a little bit of customization with that. Bluetooth, of course, is on here, standard on every single trim. And Siri Eyes Free as well. And then one thing you'll notice is you have that stitching that carries over on both sides. So you don't expect that kind of dash and that kind of trim in this type of a car, but you get it. Now, standard on the bottom 2 models, the S and the SV, will be just normal manual controls, but we get automatic climate controls on the SR. It's easy to use. Doesn't feel too cheap either. It works fine. Got your heated seat controls on both sides for 2-tier, so that's easy to use. And then right below we have an auxiliary port, a USB port, and a 12-volt power outlet, and a little storage bin. And then as an accessory, we have a lighting package where there's actually lights. You can press that button and have lights down by your feet. Just some gentle lighting, nothing too much. Otherwise, that storage bin works fine for my phone. And I said your push button start. We've got a leather shifter with our leather steering wheel. And if I put it in reverse, another thing is that we have parking sensors, which is pretty cool. So another thing I just don't expect really, but we have a backup camera with dynamic guidance lines as well. So that's always nice to see. Things get a little bit interesting over here. This little section right here is just plastic. My wallet fits in there fine, but it'd be nice to see maybe a little rubber pad on here just come with it to kind of keep stuff in place. This front cup holder is smaller, and then this one is a little bit larger. And it's kind of cut out with this armrest. And the silly thing that I told you about with the front seats is that you don't get an armrest on the S trim. And this one that opens up like this is actually an accessory. Little coin holders, soft little insert in there. Then right up above, this automatic dimming rearview mirror is an accessory as well. Otherwise, you'll just get your regular manual flipping mirror. And then up above, you don't have a sunglass holder, which is something that's a little bit of a bummer. But these visors are just massive. There's no vanity lights with the visors. You'd have to use those lights right there. And the visors have a really large slide out piece as well. Now sitting in the back seat of the Versa, thanks to a bad hair day, my hair is actually touching the ceiling. My head is not actually pushing into the ceiling, so anybody taller than me might have trouble though. For this class of a car though, these seats are actually pretty good. I mean, I'm not too low to where I feel like my knees are up really high, and I still have a little bit of space between me and my seat in front of me, so that's great news. One complaint though is that there's not a center folding armrest with cup holders, but the cup holders in the doors are actually pretty big. And then another nice little feature is that we have 2 USB ports right in front of us. Now I've moved to the middle and my head is actually touching the ceiling, but smaller people should be fine, and there's a little hump in the middle. Otherwise, it's really not too bad. It's a really spacious back seat for a car of this class. Now under the hood of this 2020 Nissan Versa, we still get the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine, no turbos, no other options, but this does have a power upgrade from last year. This 1.6 is going to have 122 horsepower, 114 pound-feet of torque, and the standard transmission on the S model, the base, is a 5-speed manual. Otherwise, the CVT that we have here is optional on the base model, or it's standard on the SV or the SR. So the manual transmission is only available on the base model. Nissan did say that they improved the CVT transmission for this year with improved shift and responsiveness, so we'll test it out on the test drive. And miles per gallon on this CVT model is going to be 32 city, 40 highway, and 35 combined, and then you'll drop 5 miles per gallon in each category with the manual transmission. All right, we are on the test drive in this 2020 Nissan Versa. So right off the bat, my first impression when I first got behind the wheel of this Versa was that it feels a little bit zippier and a little bit quicker than those numbers would suggest, at least when you're driving in town. It's a really easy car to drive around. It's got some lightweight steering. It's relatively spacious for the dimensions of this car. It's just a simple and easy to drive car. And that's about all you can ask for in this subcompact class. You're not asking for performance or anything like that, just something to help you get around and be efficient while doing it. Now, visibility out of here, is not bad. As you look back there, it's really not too bad at all for a car. It's not great though, so it's nice that we get the blind spot indicators as like a backup. And acceleration is just smooth and effortless right off the bat. I mean, you really don't have to put a lot of throttle into it. It's kind of a jumpy little throttle. And that's what I was saying with my first impression. Now, right off the bat, we're gonna get on it a little bit. We do not have it in sport mode. We can put it in a sport mode. All right, so that was pedal down. And you could see that the CVT transmission still mimics some shift. It's got some patterns that it goes through, and it did rev it out quite a bit. Now, it's not gonna feel completely like a regular automatic transmission. And if you want something like that, or even something more basic, you can go for the 5-speed manual on the S model. Now, out on the road here, one thing that I've got to say about the steering is the last time I was driving home from work on the highway, it was pretty windy out with some crosswind, and this thing was getting blown all over the road. And part of it is because there's just no feedback with the steering wheel, and there's quite a bit of laxity in it as well. But most of the time, I never had a problem with that until just recently when it was pretty windy, and it's still pretty windy. It's kind of a light car, it just kind of gets blown around a little bit. So I wish the steering was had a little bit more feedback, but really, this car is gonna do the job of being efficient and getting you from A to B. Now going about 40, pedal down. It's pretty responsive. I mean, there's really no wait for the engine to kick in and that transmission to give you the right RPMs. It's honestly a good pairing for this engine. It does just fine. It's not fast at all. That's one thing. I wish that this had a little bit more speed. Let's get on the brakes. The brakes have a little bit of a softness to them, especially at high speeds. I wish that was a little bit more sure, but this car is lightweight and doesn't really have any problems getting stopped. It's a little bit of a different brake feel when you're at high speeds though. Now I just put it in sport mode, so we're gonna see how that goes. And that just got me up to the speed limit. So it definitely takes some time to get this vehicle up to speed. Merging on the highway, the sport mode could definitely help, and I'm actually gonna keep it in sport mode. It just kicked the RPMs up. And merging on the highway, I want a little bit of extra juice. Going around this corner, not going fast at all. The car's got a little bit of lean to it. It's got a torsion beam suspension in the back too, so it's not going to be super smooth. But talking about the ride comfort, it's a little bit bouncy, but honestly for this class, it's not bad at all. It does just fine. When you get on some broken pavement, it does kind of toss you around a little bit. But honestly, at this price point, you really can't complain too much about that. In terms of day-to-day driving, this car, super easy to live with. Like I kind of said that already, how it's just an easy car to drive, easy to live with. There's enough space in here. I still like the couple little practical storage areas, like right in front of me, this armrest, which is an accessory. It is underpowered, but you can't expect much at this price point, and especially in this class, but it's good enough. If you do a lot of city driving or kind of rural driving where you don't really have to get on it a whole lot or merge into traffic, you probably won't even notice or really care. But if you have a lot of hills or you need to merge onto a high-speed freeway pretty quickly, this is a little bit stressful at times. Now, this does have the intelligent cruise control, and it's got the lane departure system to where the steering wheel actually, and that was the rumble strips, but the steering wheel actually vibrates. It's not like the autopilot system or the quite as in-depth as, like, for example, the Altima that I was in recently, but it still has the safety features like the automatic braking in the back and the front, the blind spots on the side, and the backup cameras standard on every car nowadays. So you've got quite a bit, you know, for what you could expect for this class. And I try to say for this class because I don't want you to think that I'm comparing this to anything else. I always try to compare this to other vehicles of this price point. Now, one complaint, well, not really complaint, but one thing that you're gonna get with this cost of car is a fair amount of road noise and wind noise. You're not gonna get a quiet vehicle, and my decibel ratings were somewhat high on this car, but one thing that the decibel ratings don't really pick up a whole lot, at least from the way it honestly sounds, there's a lot of wind noise. There's wind noise around this window, and I can hear it in the back. The windshield is laminated, typical, but there's just a lot of noise. So if that's something that bothers you, you might want to put some extra insulation in here, in the doors, or your own insulation on your own, or just look for a different vehicle. But really, the Nissan Versa does exactly what it's supposed to. It's a commuter car, it's efficient, it's got enough space to be practical, and it's honestly a nice option at this price point with some of the tech that it offers as well. So to wrap things up with this 2020 Nissan Versa, it's more than I expected, especially for the subcompact class. Nissan did a good job of making this car not feel too economical. It's still an economical car, it's fairly efficient, but it's got more space than you'd expect. And with the accessories available, like some of the funky stuff we had on here, like the undercar lighting, for example, you can dress this up pretty well, like this one, just over $20,000. So for $20,000 or less, going all the way down to the S model, is this a top pick? Leave your comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.